All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at last on the ground, you in midair. Where are the clouds? Isn't it bliss? Don't you?
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone, hour number 2 of tonight's show. And we're coming to you still from the broadcast center and studios of the X Zone Broadcast Network in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And you're listening to us on the Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming us at classic1220.ca. People say, Rob, why do you keep on telling people where you're listening from, or transmitting from, broadcasting from, where you're sending the message around the world from? It's very simple. We have different affiliates around the world who join us at different times during a show. So that is why usually at the beginning of the hour and the end of the hour, I really go through the entire list. So it's not that I have Alzheimer's. It's not that I have to read cue cards. It's just that I just want to make sure that you, the listening audience, as well as the stations that are good enough to carry our show, get the proper recognition that they so rightfully deserve. John Horrigan is my guest. He's sticking with us for hour number 2. And I must say, John, this is a first in, I would say, the last 25 years where we've had a guest on for 2 hours.
Wow, I'm honored. I really am. And I'm honored that your listeners are still with us.
Yeah, no, we've got great listeners. We really do. Unlike those who watched the congressional hearings today, I'd love to see the data on how long people actually watched. There was one company that was streaming on YouTube that was actually putting commercials in. And when the commercial was on, you lost that part of the hearing. So you didn't know what was being said, or there was no continuity in the broadcast. So I thought that was number one, rather tacky. Number two, as a way of making money. Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Sure. I'm looking at just on YouTube, of all the broadcasts, 85K views, 88K views. The AP one had 242,000 views, streamed 7 hours ago. So there was certainly interest in it. But as you said, how long did they stay with it? And my guess was not very long. I know when I was listening to this today, when I found out I was going to be a guest, I fell asleep and I had to go back and listen to it again. So it's and I walked away I was disappointed. I felt bad. And all these newbies talking about stuff that you and I knew 30 years ago, and the trash retrieval program with no substantial data offered up.
Exactly.
And then I can't tell you that, Rob. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't disclose. Behind closed doors, we can talk about that. Come on. Oh, secret agent. And again, they only stayed with close encounters of the first kind. Do you remember Elizondo said they split formations? You bet they do. I mean, they were splitting formations in World War II with Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
In the Korean War, there was UFOs as well. You bet they come right at airliners, right, and then boom, right over the cockpit. So they don't collide. So there's never been a collision.
What I can't understand is when that carrier group that took the camera gun footage of the Tic Tac, why would they send up a fighter to investigate a UFO that wasn't armed?
I think that was the first aircraft available. If we go back to Thomas Mantell, do you
Hmm.
remember that one? P-51 Mustang, Ohio, Circleville, Ohio is where he crashed. And I believe, I want to say 54, I'm not sure, 55 maybe. They sent him up, and all the other fighters peeled off, and he kept going, and he fell unconscious and plummeted to
Yeah.
Earth. So they had to send up, it was November 2004. They had to send up some sort of fighter or a combat air patrol to investigate it. And as you said, it was just out of reach, like the fox and the grapes. This thing just kept moving away from them.
Hmm.
And I think that this thing wanted to be tamed. That's just the way I feel that these sightings are with intent. They're on purpose by the occupants or whoever's flying these craft, um, that they want to be seen at certain times. And that was just cat and mouse, and we don't even have close to the technology of pursuing these. Nothing on the limits like that.
To your knowledge, John, is there an agency within the United Nations that also does UFO investigations on an international scale? And do they or have they ever published any reports that can be scrutinized by the by UFO researchers?
Yeah, well, you said the United Nations, and I started giggling, but I'll stay with it.
Okay.
Anything that comes out of the United Nations nowadays, I have other things to do. I mean, they're too busy about rolling up sleeves and putting an injection in your arm. So, but I will tell you this: Bud Hopkins, you remember him? I
Yeah,
got to
sure.
meet him. Great, and here it is. I'll parlay this into alien abductions. To me, he was the greatest researcher of alien abduction, the late John Mack from Harvard,
Yeah.
actual professor. But he came out with a few books, and there was one and with this woman named Linda who lived in New York City, and she was
Uh,
actually floated out of the window
yeah.
um, of her building.
Hmm.
And people saw this. Linda Cortile, I think,
Yep,
was her
that's
name,
right.
and yeah, and she was a support group. And Bud had other groups, Intruders, Copley Woods, Missing Time. But this one here, allegedly, and I'm trying to remember, she was brought to the beach somewhere in Manhattan or Staten Island, and on the beach was the alleged UN director at that time. I gotta remember his name, Perez Coya, maybe. I hate but either way, it was a bizarre story, and I remember reading
Hmm.
that she was brought to this area in her dream or whatever with other abductees. Now, these people repeatedly tell stories of being abducted in the night. Whitley Strieber is a fiction writer, right?
Yes.
We can
Yeah.
all agree on that, right? So, but his stories were terrifying. But I still think that you can't walk away from the people who have been claimed to have been abducted by aliens. As you know, I was the final person to interview Betty Hill,
Hmm.
who was the original abductee, 1961, New Hampshire, with her husband Barney. They basically pulled over the car. They were brought on board. They were regressed hypnotically. Walter Webb investigated this, and then they were regressed hypnotically, and they basically had the same account being probed. Betty's dress is still on display. They had dots on their car. Barney's shoes were scuffed, and they lived in terror for the rest of their lives. And she stuck by her story and never wavered. She did say some other stuff where she could call UFOs on demand, and that's where you lose me. But in the same token, up to her death, she was just sharp as a tack, and she never wavered from her original story. And to think that they were claims have been made by women that they were taking ova out of them,
Yeah.
that they were taking eggs, men getting sperm taken from them, that almost inferring that there's some sort of hybrid species they were creating. And that was all the rage in the early 90s. And then it stopped,
Yep.
right? And it was being ignored maybe, but it stopped. I know there are support groups, but I'm wondering, are those hybrids on Earth now? As they say, are there skinwalkers in the Pentagon? It's fascinating to think that these hybrids were created. Why? Maybe they didn't have the God particle that we have, the soul,
Hmm.
but to think that they took our ova and sperm and crossed it with their own genes and made this bulbous half human, half alien entity.
You know, Kevin Randall had Carol Rayner on, Bud Hopkins' wife, on his show, and she basically called him a fake. Bud Hopkins, a fake.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she pointed to the possibility that in her mind that Bud Hopkins and Linda were having an affair.
Okay, so Bud, that's a big statement. I even if you took Bud Hopkins out of the equation, what Mac did with the school kids.
Now we're talking about Dr. John Mack.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, let's stick it with Bud. Yeah. I believed him that if he was having an affair with Linda Cortile. Let me throw another curveball into you. Do you know who his partner was up until he died? No. Leslie Kane.
Really?
Yeah, the one from Huffington Post and a UFO author and the one who basically was at Sidney Blumenthal from the New York Times, December 17, 2017, who came up with first official disclosure proclamation from the U.S. Navy. So I found him to be genuine, and maybe he embellished his books.
Yeah.
He's an artist for sure, so he knew how to do that. But the trace in Kansas, was it, in 1981, with the impressions, close encounters with the second kind left in outside their house. I know that he was working with MUFON a lot. But if you notice, he's disappeared from the record. His Missing Time book, Incredible Visitations at Copley Woods. It's very difficult to get his books now. Intruders, which was made into a film. But the Witness book, the one that I recommend your listeners to, it came out in 1996. It was called Witness: The True Story of the Brooklyn Bridge UFO Abductions. And now you're saying that Carol inferred that he was having an affair with Linda Cortile. Yeah. That's the first that I've heard. And keep in mind that it could be because Bud had 3 wives, right?
Sure. Well, she also made that inference on the Netflix special.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, hey, what goes on behind closed doors goes on behind closed doors, and many times women will say things that aren't really true, and men will do the same. So. Yep.
And Mac, who was close to the end of his life, he and Bud worked together. Yeah. John, lost his credibility at Harvard. But he was fascinated by this phenomenon. When he went to interview the kids, and the kids were so sincere, and all their stories were corroborated. Let me see what it was. Something, I think in 1994, UFO landing was in Rwanda.
John, stand by. We've got to take our first break. Exonation, John Horrigan is my guest. This is hour number 2 here in the X-Zone, and John was our guest in hour number 1. He's such a great guy with so much information that we just had to ask him to stay this extra hour, which he agreed to, and we're very thankful for that. Check out his websites, usfolklore.com and roswellwitness.com. John and I will be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Send in the clouds. Don't bother. They're here. Sun goes down on a silky day. Quarter moon walking through the Milky Way. Oh, you and me, baby, we could think of something to do. It's the right time of the night. The stars are winking above. It's the right time of the night, making love.
Welcome back, everyone. John Horrigan is my guest of this second hour of tonight's X-Zone. His website's usfolklore.com and roswellwitness.com. And again, thanks very much for staying with us, John. And let's get back to the story about, where is it, Rwanda or Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, 1994. And John Mack was literally there within a couple of weeks when it happened. And essentially these young kids at Ariel School, September 16th, 1994, 62 pupils, including teachers between the ages of 6 and 12, said that they saw one or more silver craft descending from the sky and landing in a field away from their school. Recently, there was another documentary done with these kids, 20 years later, and 25 years later, actually. I think it was done in 2019, and they all stick to the same story. One kid said it was a hoax. He doesn't believe it anymore. Another person wanted to had to have psychological help after it. But there's been many schoolyard sightings throughout the years. In fact, you know who Preston Dennett is?
Well, of course, yeah. Preston's been on the show a number of times.
Excellent author, and he's got a great book called Schoolyard UFO Counters. There was Kentucky, 31 students, March of 1950, observed a fleet of UFOs. I'll just quickly tick this off, courtesy of Preston. Summer 1952, a woman named Joan Torrance, dozens of other students at Elder Park Elementary School, Glasgow, Scotland, see a metallic saucer hover above the school. October 55, 60 students at Jerome Elementary School, Marysville, Ohio, see a dramatic UFO display. March 21st, 1966, during the height of a UFO flap in North America, 87 students at Hillsdale College in Michigan see a UFO land in front of the school. Just a few weeks later, April 6, 1966, 200 kids at West Hall High School, this is a big one, in Melbourne, Australia, see 3 or 4 UFOs, and one lands next to the school. April 1967, 200 kids at Crestview Elementary School in Florida. It's bizarre. 1970, March, Richmond School in New Zealand, UFO overhead. February 1977, Broadhaven Elementary School in South Wales, a landed UFO with occupants. And then we get to September 16th, 1994 in Zimbabwe. So there's been a litany of sightings over the 45-year period beginning in 1950 and concluding in 1994.
All right, if we're looking at all this data that Preston and other researchers have accumulated, to me this is something that the congressional hearings should know about, because if you have all these school sightings, number one, the invasion of U.S. airspace is nothing new, that it's been happening. And when you get the number of kids who are saying that this actually happened, they all can't be liars. I'm sorry.
Nope, they can't, and they're so innocent, right?
Yeah.
And when they're with their lisp and describing it from the innocence of a 6 or 7 year old, and saying what they saw and nodding, and just they're not looking for approval; they want an answer. Just like when you talk to somebody that's seen a UFO or even Bigfoot, they want, "Can you help me? Can you give me an answer?"
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I can't. I said, "You're just one of many, many people who have seen it." And again, as you said, they don't even want to consider this in their congressional hearings. They're concentrating on close encounters of the first kind, that is, a visual sighting of an unidentified flying object with military aircraft. And as you said, they're incurring in our airspace. They have for many, many years. You were told, pilots were told, shut up, don't say a word about it, forget about it. Otherwise, you're going to be ostracized and kicked out, and you won't be flying anymore. And that was ingrained generation after generation into the pilots' heads. Airline pilots, so many of those guys. Oh, there's another one.
Mm-hmm.
I talked with one, and he probably saw maybe 24 UFOs throughout his flying career of 27 years. So, who knows?
Have you ever heard of Charles Hall?
What is that?
Charles Hall.
No.
Okay. Now, he claims to have been a member of the United States Air Force in the meteorological division at Area 52, not Area 51, Area 52. And this, according to Charles, and he's held on to this story for, God, I think I first had him on one of my first shows. And I had the opportunity of meeting Charles and his wife Marie in, Las Vegas, Nevada, when we did the show there for an entire week.
Yeah, Charles Hall, you said, right?
Yeah,
Charles Hall?
yeah.
Yes, the big white alien in the desert. Yeah, yeah. The guard shack. Go
Exactly,
on. Yep.
exactly. He was telling us that, and this is on the show, that he used to take the aliens into Las Vegas and they blended in perfectly on this stopover, because he claimed that Area 52 was a stopover for the mothership from one planet or one area, where it would come, stop, aliens would embark and disembark, and the craft would take off again.
Kind of like going over the U.S. border in Mexico, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With coyotes.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a big statement. I will say that there are some people who are more, how can I say, in tune with this. I could be standing next to a person, they see a UFO, I don't.
Yep.
I can't summarily dismiss them. The people that say that they're abducted, they are abducted over and over again.
Yeah.
There are people who see ghosts, they see UFOs, they see Bigfoot. They are in tune to this paranormal wavelength. I've seen Charles. I was friends with him on Facebook before I got kicked off, and he and I agreed politically. I aligned with him perfectly, and I thought his book was fascinating. And like you said, he just stays to the story.
Yeah.
Hasn't deviated. And with that portal idea, we spoke a few minutes ago about Skinwalker Ranch
Yes.
being a portal, perhaps. But you've heard of Dulce, New Mexico,
Yes.
with the Bennington, the firefight there, that's a portal. The ocean, as we know, is a great place to hide, the stopover place. Even some say, was it Richard Hoagland with alien bases on the dark side of the moon? I know he had the base on Mars. But they have to be staging places. How to say this? Bases where they don't have to hover in the atmosphere, where they can come and go as they please. So it's so much to grasp and get my arms around that I don't know what's real and what isn't anymore in ufology. But to think that they now meld into the public, who knows? I'll tell you this one story. So I was a sports announcer doing New England Patriots softball games. The Patriots would do fundraising softball games in the summer just prior to camp. And one of the promoters had this girl working for them, and she had these almond eyes, a huge forehead where you could see veins in her forehead, and she had a perfect figure. And she would, this is weird, but she would know when I had a conversation about doing the game, she would give me the answers to the questions I asked before I asked them. It was weird. And then here's the kicker. She was born in Alamogordo, New Mexico, which is right near the White Sands Missile Range and the White Sands Proving Ground. So and now that I look back at it, it's like, well, was she? But they would have to be, if they made these hybrids, did they bring them back to their home planet, or did they see the Earth there? And are there people, how can I say, influencing the environmental movement? Hey, you're destroying your planet.
Yeah.
I know that abductees have had these thoughts planted in their minds. They've been shown, given visions of the planet destroying itself. Who's to know that they're not in the psyche of these abductees who are trying to warn them over and over again that, hey, you're doing this to the planet? Who was that? The guy, one-armed guy in Switzerland.
Billy Meyer,
right?
Yeah.
He had that vision put in. And there's another story. That's a wild story in itself, that he's been plugged in, so to speak, for so many years. I'm not ready to dismiss his videos, Rob. It's his films. I'm not. I've seen them and studied them, and a guy with one arm, I mean, it's, who knows?
Speaking about Billy Meyer, whatever happened to Cal Korff? Because Cal apparently did an undercover investigation on Billy Meyer and was part of his entourage for a while, and Cal seems to have dropped right off radar.
Yeah, skeptics. There's no money in UFO skeptics. I mean, who was the guy? Who was the guy from Skeptic magazine?
Michael Sherman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, you're good. And then the great skeptic, the magician there. So
Randy,
yeah. You have a short shelf life in terms of trying to talk down every single UFO encounter. There's a guy now running Billy Meyer. I forget his handler. So it's Michael
Horn.
Yes. And he's brought Billy Meyer forward to the public consciousness. But, Savyaze, right, the alien that he talked with, I think there were 4 different aliens that he said that he had contact with. But he's getting up there. I mean, he's now, 88? He's in February. So, but I think his story is compelling and fascinating. There's a lot of a book that he made with all these predictions that are supposed to come true. There's supposed to be Pleiadians from Pleiades, which is one of the closest stars to Earth. But these beam ships that he had, I'm not ready to throw him
into the
hoax pile yet.
Well, wasn't Betty Hill talking about the Pleiadians as well?
Well, there was the Marjorie Fish star map. Basically, when she was regressed, she put she just off of memory. Here's the map they showed. The aliens showed her of where they originated from, and then Marjorie Fish was able to position that. I think it was Zeta Reticuli, right, for where she was from, where the aliens were from, and
you're right, yeah,
a star system, and. Kudos to Marjorie Fish, and what Zeta Reticuli is a binary star system 39 light years from Earth. So, yeah, that who knows? I know that they've looked at extra. What do they call them? Extra planets.
Exoplanets.
Exoplanets. Right. That I remember 20 years ago, every other week they were coming up with a new exoplanet. It seemed like. So we know that the odds are. That was the Fermi. What's the name? The Fermi paradox about extraterrestrials being around. That the odds are that there's got to be life elsewhere. Not only life elsewhere, but similar to us, being Homo sapien,
right?
Or at least oxygen breathing, consuming vegetation from the planet. So
John, I hate to do this again to you, my friend. Stand by. We've got to take our. Let me see, third break for this hour. John and I will be back on the other side as the X Zone continues from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. And speaking about St. Catharines, if you're driving around Ontario or if you're driving around Pennsylvania, state of New York, and you've got your car radio tuned to 1220 AM, you're listening to us on Classic 1220 CFAJ AM right here in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just down the street from our studios. And they stream us at classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
Something to do. It's the right time of the night. The stars are winking above. It's the right time of the night. We're making love.
Space, the final frontier.
Specimen gathering mission on planet Alpha 177.
Mr. Spock is much stronger than the ordinary human being. Aroused, his great physical strength could kill. But it's a risk I'll have to take.
Something bother you, Mrs. Spock?
May I say that I have not thoroughly enjoyed serving with humans. I find their illogic and foolish emotions a constant irritant.
Unlike you, we humans are full of unpredictable emotions.
Love, tenderness. Yes. If I seem insensitive to what you're going through, Captain, understand. It's the way I am.
Don't be afraid. Here's my hand. Hold on.
You are beautiful. More beautiful than any dream of beauty I've ever known.
What is your point, Mr. Spock?
I love you. I can love you.
Kiss me.
You're out of your mind.
The prospect appeared quite attractive to you a moment ago.
You don't really want to hurt me, do you? Put that thing away.
No, I don't think so.
No, I can.
It's painless and quick. Entry made by Second Officer Spock.
Possible we may have hit the wrong entry point.
Yes. Very well, Captain.
Try again.
If it pleases you.
What are you waiting for? Hurry!
If you'll excuse the intrusion, Captain.
Bury the hatchet.
An appropriate choice of terms, Captain.
I won't fight you anymore. I feel so weak. I'll be glad when this is over.
And behaving disgracefully.
Believe me, Mr. Spock. It was painful. In more ways than one.
Aye, sir.
Captain's log supplement. I've seen a part of myself no man should ever see.
I don't know why I have not been infected.
Thank you, Mr. Spock.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight. My motto's always been when it's right, why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night? When everything's a little clearer in the light of day. And we know the night is always gonna be here anyway. Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks
And welcome back to all you Trekkie fans out there. I've probably ruined a couple of kids for life playing that, but hey, nighttime radio, what can I say? John Horrigan is my special guest. www.usfolklore.com and roswellwitness.com. You and I were, talking about Star Trek on the other side when we went to the break, and we had the ability and the great fortune of meeting Zulu. I can't remember his real name.
George Takei?
No, that was
Chekhov.
Chekhov. Yeah, can't remember now. Anyway, he was a great guy, and we were pleased that we had the opportunity of meeting him. Bill Shatner, I met when we were doing the very first Festival of Lights TV show here. He sent us a clip from T.J. Hooker to play during the broadcast where he was actually, wishing all the Canadians on the network that we had set up from Niagara Falls to, all the different affiliates that would pick us up within the month of us coming up with this idea. And he was very gracious. And but how real or how much foresight did Gene Roddenberry have when it came to the creation of Star Trek? What has the phaser, the flip phone, and all the other Star Trek memorabilia that has come out over the years? Where did do you think that he actually had an interconnection with with somebody on the inside who gave him these ideas, or were these all his?
Sure. I know the was it Defense Advanced Research Program, DARPA, in the U.S. came about in 1959. So they're supposedly 30 years ahead in research of things to come, but he had to be tapped into it. We know Chris Carter somehow for X-Files was tapped into it.
Yeah.
But to have the foresight of these coming gadgets, I mean, even go back to H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, they were tapped into what was to happen in the future. Edgar Rice Burroughs, to a certain extent. So, yeah, they know somebody or trigger something in their mind where they have no over the horizon or futuristic view. I know every prediction I've ever made never came true, but some people just have the intuition and the forward thinking. And Roddenberry certainly was way ahead of his time. I mean, to the point that how did we ever get to the moon with that type of primitive technology?
I have no idea. If you ask Bart Sibrel, we never did get there. But it's one of the questions that are still out there.
In the flat earthers, I come back at them with the flat sun theory, and then they go away. I have a flat earth friend, and I love him, but I said I believe in a flat sun, and then he can't deal with that, and then we stopped. We talk about something else.
The Hollow Earth is coming back again.
And what's the moon? Is it a Martian moon? The hollow, it's a Saturn moon. It's supposedly hollow, right? Where Which one is that?
Well, according to my guest last night, that all the planets in the solar system are actually hollow, and they all have subterranean life beneath them, and that's because the planet protects them from all the different dangers that are posed to these planets because they don't have an atmosphere like Earth protecting them.
10 years ago, I'd scoff at that. Now everything's on the table.
It is,
Everything's up for. Who's to say it's not artificial? We've been lied to before, and Hollow Moon has been out there for some time.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
And then the other one that I've always studied is TLP, was translunar phenomena, where objects are seen streaking across the surface of the moon. There's a guy by the name of John Leonard Walson. Have you heard of him? He's the one with the powerful telescope, and he takes videos of the moon, and the British government came after him. But if anybody out there, John Leonard, Lenard Walson, Walson, go on to YouTube, check out some of his videos. He shows these, it looks like structures on the moon. Again, we mentioned Richard Hoagland earlier. Who's to say, like in the crater Aristarchus, right? There's always been lights on the moon. In the crater Aristarchus and the surface of the moon, there's been anomalous lights. Say, now I would. What's the name of the gentleman you had? I would love to have a discussion with him, because he may be onto something.
Yeah. Jose Escamilla as well. Had believed
rods.
Rods. The Roswell rods, but he also was heavy into the structures on the moon.
Makes perfect sense. And I mean, they didn't even figure out that there were how the craters were made until the 20th century. There were stories. I did a segment on my show, The Great Moon Hoax, on the Folklorist. You can see it on YouTube. About, I think it was 1834, with dime novelism and yellow journalism, where there were 7 dailies in New York City competing, and they essentially said that there were creatures on the moon. Percival Lowell, for the Martian Canals, 1877. He was brought into that. It wasn't his idea that there was life on Mars. So we've always speculated, and then of course Orson Welles, 1938, War of the Worlds, that there are creatures within our solar system, whether they on Mars, a moon, a moon of another outer planet. Who knows?
Speaking about Mars, have you ever heard of Dr. John Brandenburg?
No,
he's a physicist who used to work at NASA, and he said that on the show that he has evidence that is beyond a shadow of a doubt that millions of years ago there was a thermonuclear war on Mars that annihilated the planet.
Again, 10 years ago, I'd chuckle. Now, who knows?
Exactly.
I could.
Exactly.
It looks like a desolate planet. It could have knocked it out of its orbit, its life-bearing orbit, and there could have been some sort of nuclear genocide there.
Well, I asked him, I said, well, how, in your opinion, was this thermonuclear war fought? And he said, well, I'll tell you one thing, Rob. It wasn't fought from entities on the planet. It was fought from someone attacking the planet. And I said, well, if they had the ability back then to annihilate a planet, how come they haven't annihilated any other planet? And he said, that you know of.
Ooh.
All right, John. And he's a very serious, legitimate, well-educated scientist.
Yeah, and again, he has every right to make that postulation. He's got the data, and nobody's ever proposed it because it's a unique theory that immediately you want to scoff at it, but then you say, wait a minute, time is a human thing, isn't it?
It is.
And in this, when I got out of high school, the universe was 4 billion years old. Today, I think it's 13.9 billion years old. So I've aged 9.9 billion years in the span of about 45 years.
Well, you sound very good for your age.
thank you. But still the back issues. Hey, one thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Just final comment on the UFO hearings today.
Sure.
Immaculate Constellation. Okay, do you remember hearing that?
I sure
Sounds
do.
like a birth control device.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And well, basically, they said it was a secret, unacknowledged special access program, a USAP, dealing with UFOs, and it's been operating for decades without congressional oversight. And do you blame them? Raising concerns about government transparency. Of course, there's been a small elite group doing that. But and they say if you say that term, Immaculate Constellation, you'll get on a watch list. It's just too much spy versus spy stuff. It's Boris Badenov.
It is, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens because of the second strike when it comes to congressional hearings on UAPs. And at the end of the session, people were standing up and clapping. I'm thinking, what the hell are you clapping for? Are you clapping because you agree with what was said, or are you clapping because it's over?
Yeah, exactly. I think of the latter.
Yeah.
You get to go home because it was just grandstanding. And again, this was set up by the previous administration. Just hear me on this. They believed that they would be in it for another 4 years. So.
Stand by, John. I hate to do this again, but this is our final break, so please stand by. John Horrigan is my very special guest. And John and I will be back as we wrap up this edition of the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And to find out more about John, visit his two websites, usfolklore.com and roswellwitness.com. Don't go away, we'll be back. Maybe, unless we're both taken in by the Men in Black or Congress. Well, wait a minute. If John doesn't come back, it's Congress. If I don't come back, it ceases. We'll be back. Don't go away.
Thinking of you's working up my appetite. Looking forward to a little afternoon delight. Rubbing sticks and stones together make the sparks ignite. And the thought of loving you is getting so.
You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show with my good friend, Earthling Rob McConnell, live and around the world on Talkstar. www.xzoneradio.com.
Earth changes. You're cracking me up. I'm starting to hear about all sorts of weird stuff. It's the bombs, it's the comets, it's the dark days upon us. Or so say the folks who all quote Nostradamus. Earth changes. Oh, prophets of doom. It sounds like disaster is your favorite tune. If it makes you feel better, get it out of your system and tell us about the next big cataclysm. Okay, the poles they will shift and volcanoes will bellow. LA's gonna disappear, New York turn to jello. There'll be tidal waves, earthquakes, fissures and crises. The earth's gonna be screaming, you can all kiss my axes goodbye, bye, bye. Earth changes. If it's like they said, then there's no use hiding out under your bed. But don't get depressed and run up to the bottle. The earth's trying to tell us it's time to remodel. Earth changes. Less greed will be nifty and house up our peace. For a big polar shifty, a whole lot more love and a big dose of patience. Coming alive to the joys of creation. Earth changes, and so can we. For all of the changes are in you and me. With so much sweet love, is it really surprising? A new earth is dawning upon the horizon. Earth changes. Earth changes.
That's Michael Horn singing the song that he wrote called Earth Changes, and Michael Horn is the U.S. media representative for Billy Meyer. And that's a great song. It makes a lot of sense, and it has a very important message in it for what is going on this planet today. Our guest this hour, and for the entire show, for a first time in a long time, we haven't done this, is John Horrigan, usfolklore.com and roswellwitness.com. And thanks so much for staying with us for these 2 hours. It's been great. We've been able to basically go around the UFO world. We talked about Congress. We've talked about alien abductions. We've talked about, oh my gosh, Roswell, you name it. So thank you so much, John. It's a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for tolerating me, and you and Craig, and all the listeners. It's been a pleasure.
I was going to ask you something. I can't remember his name right now. What was the name? What was the name of the guy, Fire in the Sky?
Oh, Travis Walton.
Yeah, Travis Walton. My good Lord.
My wife's met him a couple of times at UFO conventions. He's a very nice guy, and I believe him.
Yeah, apparently there's been a falling apart between him and what's the other guy's name? Roger.
Mike Rogers.
Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, right?
Yeah.
How do we just, how do we try and make sense of this? If you've got these people falling apart, the story is falling apart, and even Travis Walton is now saying that he believes that the UFO beamed him aboard their craft for medical reasons.
I love the book. I like his story. He was always consistent.
Yeah.
Obviously, when people get jealous, and he's always had friction between him and Rogers anyways. Rogers, his depiction is different, but you got to understand, Rogers saw him pulled up into the craft, and that's where his story ends until Travis comes back. They find him, and he's been gone, 6 days? I'm not sure of the exact. And he describes being, held in this craft, in this gelatinous shell, like a honeycomb or something like that. And they perform all these experiments on him, looking at his sperm, his muscular. So I don't know if he's saying that they healed him. Is that what he's saying, Rob? Or is he saying that he has maladies because of that event in 1976?
Apparently, from what I've been told and what I recall from the story is that the extraterrestrials realized that during the encounter, that when the beaming process was happening, that they injured Travis unintentionally, and that they brought him aboard and continued the abduction in order to perform the necessary treatments in order to bring Travis back to good health.
Wow. Now, keep in mind, of all the abduction stories I've looked at, including the folklore, that his is the longest alien abduction I believe that I've ever seen. So, and wow. I have to gnaw on that acorn. That's interesting that they damaged him, and then they had to repair him, and then they just dumped him naked in a phone booth.
It sounds like a coyote date.
Tinder date, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, boy, for helping him out now, get out of here.
That's it, eh? Love you. Bye. Don't call me.
And then they flew away.
Yeah.
You heard of in 1976, the Allagash encounters in Maine? Did you ever hear about that? About Chuck Rack? It was in 1976. 4 guys are in a canoe in Maine, in the wilds of Maine, and they get abducted. They light this huge bonfire, and then they go out fishing, and they see from behind, there's 4 in one canoe, they see from behind this light coming. It's in northern Maine, in the Allagash, it's called the Allagash region, and they flash it. There was Jack and Jim Weiner, Chuck Rack, and I forget the other guy, Charlie something.
What was the guy? What was the first guy's name? Weiner?
Yes, Weiner.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. There was no Oscar Mayer there. But
Oh.
they're fishing. They set this big bonfire up, and suddenly this light from behind comes up, and they all turn around the canoe, and the last guy in the canoe flashes the flashlight. Conceivably, that could be a CE5, a close encounter of the fifth kind, where you make contact with an alien entity. Close encounters of the fourth kind is abduction. Third kind is you see occupants. Second kind, you see residual traces, land, you've been impacted by the sighting. And then the first is just an object. So they get abducted, and then all of a sudden they find themselves paddling back to shore, and their huge bonfire is just smoldering embers. Missing time, they're all tired, they don't talk, they go to bed. Years later, they're regressed. Like 12 years later, 1988, they have these nightmares, and they all basically say the same thing, akin to a Travis Walton alien encounter, where they're brought on board, examined, terrified, and it's really an interesting story called the Allagash Abductions.
With all this testimony, did these guys come back with any physical proof? Any scars on their bodies or?
No, just psychological damage. And the great Ray Fowler, right, who's in the center of all the great sightings of the 70s, and even John Mack investigated this and talked to these guys. I tried to reach out and get them bring them into Boston for a UFO show, but I couldn't. But they still to this day tried to, make sense of that encounter. And they essentially had the same type of encounter. It wasn't exactly the same, but they all recalled. And then, of course, just like you said, Rogers, Chuck Rack came out in 2016 and said, "Hey, we just made it up." Okay, so as if, how can I say that? As if he's been turned on, and saying he's turned around and said, "No, it's all made up." And the other three guys are saying, "What are you talking about, Chuck?"
Yeah. Well, there was a TV show where where Michael Shermer, in fact, was on the show, where Travis Walton failed a lie detector test.
Faulty lie detector test, maybe too. You have to look at the lie detector as well. But sure, okay, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I think I could probably, if I tried hard, I could fail a lie detector test if you asked me my name and my age. You know what I'm saying? I could. I know there are certain people that are pathological liars and can easily pass it as well. And it depends on who's doing the test.
Knowing number one that here in Canada, lie detector tests, polygraph tests are not admissible in court. Because if the person really believes that they did something that they're being questioned on, they will pass the lie detector test. If you truly believe beyond a shadow of a doubt whether it actually happened or not, but you actually believe it did, you will pass that polygraph test. So here in Canada, the polygraph test is not admissible in court. Neither is hypnosis.
And you can override pain.
Yeah.
I remember as a teenager, we'd go out in the middle of the winter, take the telescopes out, and I had one friend who'd wear a T-shirt. It's 12 degrees Fahrenheit, and he's wearing a T-shirt, and he just could will himself to not be cold.
Yeah. It's a wonderful world that we live in, and there are so many more mysteries for us to think about and to try and make sense of. And I just wish that the powers to be would spend more time trying to understand this planet than they do trying to get us to Mars and beyond, and stop spending the billions and billions and billions of dollars. I don't know. I'd rather see it spent here, taking care of those on this planet that really need it. And once we solve all the problems here, all right, let's go looking on the outside to see what we can cause havoc in other parts of the world and outer space.
Yeah, and they've developed engines that run on water. Okay, that I forget the name of the man. He was silenced. They have a cure to cancer. The worst thing that could happen to all these cancer societies with their six-figured executives is to find a cure. Of course, we now know apricot seeds, B17. There are various curcumin. There are home remedies and homeopathic remedies that could help stop the spread of cancer. As you know, cancer has exploded. I'm not going to tell you why. I know why. You know why. Well, there's a number of reasons, all the chemicals.
Well, you know what? We'll have to talk about that the next time you and I get together, because unfortunately, my friend, our 2 hours is up. John, thank you so much for staying with us these 2 hours. I look forward to the next time you and I meet and we again look at the world of the paranormal and parapsychology as only you and I can. Great calling you my friend, and thanks for being there, buddy.
Thank you, Rob. I've been honored to be on your show.
You take care of yourself in regards to your family.
Will do. Same there.
All right, Exo Nation, John Horrigan has been my guest for these past 2 hours. USfolklore.com and RoswellWitness.com. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and of course in Ontario on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, who also stream us on classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, remember everyone, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night now.